Welcome to the podcast. Today we're diving into the twisty world of education policy as President Trump's just signed an executive order to scale down the Department of Education.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. It stirred up quite a debate all across the tri-state area and beyond, huh?
Absolutely. The president's been talking about returning education back to the states for a while now, even during the campaign trail. And now he's directing the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, to take all necessary steps to facilitate that closure.
Right. And while the complete dismantling would need an act of Congress, this executive order is already shaking things up for states and educators alike.
Exactly. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, for instance, quickly jumped on board. He said it's about tailoring educational experiences to the state's
Yeah, he's
own
really painting a
priorities.
picture of individual state success. It's interesting how he mentioned that every student, family, and community is different, implying a one-size-fits-all federal model just doesn't work.
Right. It's like he envisions a system where local needs steer the focus, improving literacy, workforce pathways, things that pertain directly to states like Ohio.
Yeah, I get that. But then, on the flip side, the Ohio Education Association has been quite vocal about the potential harm. They argue that this move could wreck vital programs for our most disadvantaged students.
Exactly. They are pointing out that federal Title I programs, IDEA funding for disabilities, a lot of support for college affordability, all of that might get sidelined.
That's a huge concern. Right. And they've stressed that every student in Ohio would end up paying the price for dismantling a department that's been around for 45 years.
Yeah, it's like dismantling the supporting beam of a building without a stable alternative in sight.
Exactly. And shifting the control to the states, while attractive to some, also raises serious questions about funding. Kentucky's situation is a prime example, isn't it?
Absolutely. In Kentucky, where federal funding makes up a large chunk, over $1 billion annually in education funding, they're worried big time.
Yeah, that's a hefty sum. Right. With numbers like $274 million for low-income students and $182 million for special education, this isn't just about policy jargons. It's real money that supports teachers and critical programs.
And let's not forget, over half of Kentucky's public school students benefit from these federal programs, not to mention support for things like teacher training and student enrichment.
Yeah, it's foundational. So while some folks like Ohio's governor see more state control as a path to customized solutions, educators and policy experts are warning of potential budget cuts that could severely hinder student success.
Exactly, and there's that worry that the state may not always be equipped to manage such a big shift. It's like they're trading a centralized system for something that might leave gaps in critical
Right, that's
support.
a fair point. And then there's Kentucky's political angle too. Like Senator Mitch McConnell expressed cautious support for reducing government spending while questioning the legality of dismantling the DOE.
Yes, the senator's stance is interesting because it's balancing fiscal responsibility with constitutional concerns. He's essentially saying, let's wait and see
that's a
if this
careful
is even
approach.
permissible.
It almost feels like a tug of war between saving money and ensuring that the millions of dollars contributing to education aren't lost or misdirected.
Correct, and it brings up the whole issue of bureaucracy. The executive order is all about cutting red tape, channeling funds directly to the state, but that simplification might actually result in unintended consequences.
Exactly. I mean, the critics argue that without federal oversight, schools might lose consistent standards and funding security, especially in rural areas where resources are already thin.
Yeah, it's like, there's this challenge of maintaining a balance between flexibility and the safety net that a central agency provides.
Right, that's a valid critique. And speaking of safety nets, the White House did say that the executive order will maintain critical functions like student loans and grants for at-risk students, at least for now.
True, they're trying to assure the public that nothing's going to change immediately for federal student aid programs, but the long-term picture is still very murky.
Yeah, it leaves a lot of questions. There's a lot of potential for disruption here. Imagine a scenario where states have block grants that might be spent, well, at their whims instead of being tied to specific educational improvements.
Exactly, and that could lead to an inconsistency in how schools operate. It's like a patchwork quilt where some pieces are really vibrant while others might fall apart under pressure.
Yes, and I can't help but wonder, what does this mean on a national scale? Could the trend of devolving federal responsibilities spike up and create a divided education system?
Right, it does open up that debate. On one hand, giving states more control might allow for innovation tailored to local needs. On the other hand, it risks fragmenting the educational landscape where formerly there was a uniform push for equal opportunity.
Yeah, that's the crux of the matter. And there's a point where I have to respectfully challenge, while local control has its merits, isn't it also true that federal oversight has been crucial in ensuring that all students, regardless of where they live, have access to necessary resources?
Absolutely, and that's the heart of the debate. The promise of local control sounds appealing, but it might not address the systemic inequalities already present.
Right, exactly. And let's be honest, if states are left to their own devices, some might thrive while others, especially in already underfunded regions, could fall behind significantly.
Exactly. It's like you might get innovation in a few pockets, but the overall goal of equal access to education could suffer.
I see your point. So, while the executive order sends a clear message about reducing bureaucracy and returning control to the states, the broader implications hint at challenges that might reshape the educational landscape in profound ways.
Yeah, it's a complex gamble, balancing fiscal austerity, ensuring quality education, and preserving fairness across different communities. Every decision here will affect real lives, from teachers and students to entire communities.
Exactly, it's a huge responsibility. And as this unfolds, we'll have to keep an eye on both the legal battles ahead and the practical outcomes on the ground.
For sure, the next steps will definitely be a topic of heated debate among lawmakers and educators.
Right, absolutely. Thanks for this exciting chat. Really gives us a lot to think about as the future of education seems to be on the cusp of big changes.
Definitely. Let's keep following the developments and see how this unfolds. Thanks for joining in on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks.